Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started in like 1 minute. I just want to give folks a chance to kind of trickle in. You guys can answer Caitlin's question in the chat. Where is everyone attending? Oh, good. We have a good variety of people from different states. I love it. Okay. Well, without further ado, I'm going to get started in the interest of time. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second Student Academy Leadership Panel. Just as an FYI, this is going to be recorded. My name is Brittany Dawkins. I'm the president of the Student Academy Board of Directors. I also sit on the AAPA Board of Directors as a student director, and I currently practice trauma surgery here in Maryland. I also want to introduce my co-moderator. She is the Student Academy President-elect, Yasmin Hafiz. Yasmin is in her clinical year at the University of Michigan Flint, and she's going to assume my position on July 1st, which is Student Academy President. Yasmin and I will be moderating today's panel. Before we get started, though, I want to share a quick video from our former Student Academy President, Kiera Gibson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kiera Gibson. I was the Student Academy President, 2023 to 2024. I'm very excited that you all are joining the leadership panel this year. The first panel was last year, so I'm really excited that it is continuing on. Um, I started with AAPA as a Student Academy delegate. I had a great experience getting to be on the front lines of policymaking for AAPA. Um, and then I wanted to continue on, so I decided to run for the Student Academy Board. I really, really encourage you all to get involved. You are the future of PA, of the PA profession. So AAPA is a good place to get started because in a few short years, short months for some of you, you'll be out there. So advocating for us now as a student is the best way to get out there. So I really encourage you guys to get involved. Hopefully you're able to find your position, your niche, your area within the Student Academy.
Thank you for sharing that, Caitlin. And today's Kiara's birthday. And I'm so happy we could kind of make this full circle and have this for a second year. And I just definitely want to give my kudos to everybody that's attending tonight, just for having the interest in wanting to do student leadership. I think it's very powerful, and I think it's an exciting endeavor. So thank you all for being here. So, like I just said, the panel was originally created by Kiara a year ago. And really, the premise of it is to just share information about the student board of directors, our leadership roles, and to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions about, our experiences and what the time commitment looks like. Um, so just as like a timeline of everything, the Student Board of Directors candidate applications open on March 3rd. They close on March 26th. Voting is going to take place May 19th through June 2nd. And the results of the Student Board election will be announced on June 3rd. I still remember the day I got those results. It was so fun. Any AAPA student member can apply for any of the 10 open positions. So president-elect, chief delegate, director of student comms, director of diversity and outreach, and there are 6 regional director positions that are listed in front of you. And more information about each of these positions are posted, well, they will be posted soon on the elections page. So today I am joined by some former student board members, 2 of which I served with together, and one who I currently serve with right now on the big board. But I just want to thank you guys so much for joining us, to Patrice, Ashton, and Alec. I want you guys to take this moment to introduce yourselves. We can start with Patrice.
Thanks, Brittany. Hey everyone, I'm Patrice. I am currently from Jersey. but currently practicing, or not currently, I'm originally from Jersey and currently practicing family medicine in North Carolina. I've held multiple roles, as can be seen there, within the PA realm, as a PA student and also being a pre-PA, going to LES, and just had so much fun and really enjoyed everything I got to be a part of entering my career and now practicing. It's just been amazing.
Move on to Ashton.
Hi, everyone. I want to echo Kira in saying that I'm so excited that you guys are here and interested in the student board. I am, I guess, a product of the student board being on what you guys just referred to as the big board on the PA board with the American Academy of PAs currently. But I started as the Northeast Regional Director on the student board of directors, and that was such a cool experience and just really reignited my passion for like involvement. I'm originally from Kentucky. I trained up in Connecticut, went to Sacred Heart University in Stamford, Connecticut, and then I ended up sticking around Connecticut for a little bit. Took a job in emergency medicine up there. Stayed there for I guess 3 more years, and then moved back home to Kentucky a few years ago and still practice emergency medicine here. But I absolutely think that the student board of directors is an awesome place to get plugged into for our student leaders, and I'm super excited that you guys are here.
And last but not least, Alec.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alec Williams. It's very nice to meet you all. I'm currently from I'm sorry, I'm originally from Syracuse, New York, currently living in Stamford, Connecticut, where I practice orthopedic trauma surgery down at Stamford Hospital. And I went to PA school over at Quinnipiac. So been in Connecticut for a while now, and had the honor of serving on multiple committees, multiple different boards throughout my time in PA school, especially as in the position of chief delegate, was able to serve on the student board of directors. And now I think I've actually had some type of experience with everyone who's on this panel tonight in some fashion through the AAPA. And I think that says a lot just about what the AAPA has to offer for students. It can be a lot of times, but the connections that you make, the experiences that you make, and of course, the things that you learn as a PA student about our profession is just absolutely invaluable. And you get to bring a very unique perspective. So I'm very excited to talk about that a little bit more with you all tonight.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. So we will ask the panelists some pre-selected questions, and we'll also answer questions in the Q&A box at the end of the presentation. Our first question for all panelists is, why did you run or decide to run for the position on the student board? And what should interested students consider before declaring candidacy?
I don't know. I can start. I decided to run for the student board. I remember our program director in like a professional practice lecture talking about the American Academy of PAs and why it's so important to have involvement in your state and national organizations. And if we're not fighting for the profession, who's going to fight? And I was like, yeah, who's going to fight? And I remember just meeting with her and being like, is this something that I should do or that I should consider? And she was like, why not you? Like, who's gonna do it if you don't do it? And I just remember that advice, and I was very intimidated about running for a national leadership position, especially in PA school, where you're drowning in homework, you're drowning in assignments, you're drowning in studying. But I just remember her telling me to like step into the discomfort and do something that scares you a little bit. And it was great advice, and I had so much support from my program. And I think that is something that is really important. It obviously takes time away from, your typical studies and all of that. And so making sure you have the support of your program, or even asking for the support of your program. Hey, I'm interested in this. Would you support me if I decided to declare candidacy for a position? And I think it's going to be very worth it in the long run, deciding to step into something that scares you a little bit.
Oh, okay, I'll go next. Um, so I'll say for me, my original thought was, okay, if I need to start boots on the ground first, so I want to know like how can I like work my way up. So I started on my local level, had a position in my program, and then I went to my state level because in my mind, if I'm going to be a PA, I wanted to know what is the experience like for all levels as I work my way up. So then I went to conference for the first time and was just sold. How can I be a part of this thing called the Student Academy? I was already at my state conference and then going to a national conference, I was just sold. So I do definitely echo the time commitment, the thinking about all those things, balancing school. I had experience being a part of many different organizations in undergrad and my other master's degree prior to. So I was already good with balancing. So I was in the back of my mind. But as we all know on this line, PA school is a very different animal. So definitely take that into consideration. But yeah, I loved it and loved how like the camaraderie, being at conference and just want to see what is AAPA about and especially from the student side.
I think that the decision to run is a little bit different for everyone. And for myself, it felt very natural. It was something I was always involved in some type of student government, whether that be in high school and undergraduate. And so it just felt natural to try to get into the governance of our profession. But I think the thing that I really learned, especially from a lot of those who were in my kind of in my school and a few cohorts above me who had been a little bit involved in AAPA, and then of course some Connecticut friends actually like Ashton who pushed me into the role of saying, "Hey, just go for it. Go for the delegate, declare candidacy." It was one of the things that I really learned was that leadership isn't necessarily a role, rather it's how you're able to portray and to guide others and to use your unique perspective to make change. And I think that the AAPA board is a very interesting opportunity for students because you are able to make direct change and guide philosophy, or whether it be in the HOD or on the kind of executive side of things, being able to connect with those who are leaders in our profession at either state levels or at a national level. It's a very diverse role in that you're able to do a lot of things and learn a ton about a profession that isn't clinical. So I understand that, balancing all of the studying and the late nights, it can be very difficult. But if you're really passionate about something, then I think that you always make time for it. The same way that, for me in school, would I study psych too much? No. Absolutely not. Wasn't really my thing. But as soon as we got to, some of the surgery lectures, some of the trauma lectures, I was really able to sink my teeth in. I would say, okay, I'm going to stay in the library a little bit longer. I really like this clinical, but you make time for the things that you love. And, being on the board, I've really found that I love being in this position of being able to advocate for patients, being able to kind of be a leader in the profession.
Thank you guys. I really love what all three of y'all had to say. And I feel like, similar to Ashton, I also had like someone kind of put like fire under my belly to really get me involved. And then, similar to what you were saying, Alec, it became kind of a natural progression, right? I served as a student academy rep my freshman year, my first year at PA school, then HOD, and then naturally went into the student board of directors. So yeah, it's really important to, when someone's in your ear encouraging you to do more, like truly, take that calling. So moving forward to the next question, Patrice, I know that you attended LAS and including as a pre-PA, and you also held a student leadership role within your state chapter. Can you tell us or give us some advice to students with no leadership or volunteer history who want to get involved, kind of how you did it?
Yeah, I'd say the first thing that comes to mind with this question is to not let the lack of experience discourage you and to not think of the positions as like so out of reach and so high up that you need like this cookie cutter. Like we've already applied to PA school, that's done. You don't have to like check all the boxes and be like the creme de la creme. Like, everyone brings something really unique that is just in you. And I think that alone will shine through your application. So that in and of itself should be a reason to apply. The other thing is, as I was at LAS and conference and just meeting folks on the student board and even in HOD, there were folks that did not have an extensive leadership history or volunteer history, and they were still sitting there, next to me or, going to whatever session we were going to. And that shows that we all have a lot of beautiful things to bring to the table that can help us grow as a profession and especially as a student academy. And I'll say for me, like you said, Brittany, I attended as a pre-PA, which was very interesting because I had to go into some of the sessions by myself, which is like, whew, I know nothing. I just got here. Like, not even in school yet. But it really taught me a lot about, I do know things that about the profession and just increasing my confidence and networking and, you know, sky's the limit to how much you'll grow, but it just takes that first step of being courageous to throw your hat in the ring, and apply for these roles, these positions, and especially if you have to speak to what Alex said earlier, that drive to like want to help and want to better your fellow student or help push some of these initiatives to help us move forward as a profession and just a student base altogether. That is what we need in these roles. We need you. So don't let the lack of experience discourage you.
So our next question is for Ashton. How did holding a student academy leadership position help you during your job search or during your first job?
I think you gain many every life experience will give you different benefits and advantages in what you're doing and gives you just things that you take with you as you go. And being on the student board for me, in the beginning, I think I had a little bit of imposter syndrome, and we all had board buddies with someone on the big board. So as a student, I was matched up with somebody on the adult board, the big board, and that person was just really influential in everything that I did and kind of taking me along with them, and here's what this is and here's what that is, but also just sitting around a board table and having to listen to and learn about what's going on in the world, what's happening in the PA profession. It gives you so much insight into what we're really, really good at as a profession, where we lack. How do you negotiate? How do you have hard conversations? How do you talk to colleagues? How do you talk to people older than you and do presentations in front of people? And I think some of those things really just gave me confidence leaving the student board when I went into looking for jobs and when I went into my knowledge on the profession. And I think all of that strengthened my applications, and it also strengthened my interviews. And ironically, I think I had this plan of I'm going to go to school in Connecticut, but I always wanted to come back home to Kentucky. And so I thought my first job would be here in Kentucky, and it wasn't. And it wasn't because my first job was in Connecticut with a leader from AAPA. So Jason Prevelich, who is now our Academy president, he hired me for my first job in the ER as a new grad and took a chance on me. And he took a chance on me because he had gotten to know me. I worked on the state board with Connecticut. And so I met him through that. And then I was on the student board when he was on the adult board. I don't have a better word for that now that you guys have put this in my head. But he was on the big board when I was on the student board. And that was really cool. So I had a mentor who really invested in me and then ultimately led to my first job. So I think my experience might be a little different than others, but the reality of it is the network that you create, you're creating lifelong friends. Every person that was on the student board with me, every conference we have, every LAS, every event, we have a gathering, we get back together just like old times when we were sitting in the boardroom. And so all of those things really shape you into who you are and the jobs that you're, kind of going into. And my experience specifically. And now it's awesome because you come full circle, and I'm on the board, and Jason's president of the academy. And so I've just had this like mentorship from him all these years. And so that's kind of what I try to pass on to the next, generation or group of student leaders is you bring somebody with you, and then they bring someone with them. And then suddenly we have all of these passionate PAs who are changing the profession in really positive ways. So it certainly gave me all of that. It gave me an awesome network. And now Jason, he's in Kentucky right now. We have Kentucky PA Day at the Capitol tomorrow morning. And now our national president's in my state. And it's, I've been in his state all of these years. And so it's just very full circle and really rewarding. And my student board experience was one of the greatest experiences I had in PA school.
Thank you, Ashton. I love that. And, being able to see, the mentorship relationship between you and Jason, firsthand is so sweet. I think some of the things I took from what you were talking about is really, strengthening your knowledge. Being a part of the board and going into your first job allows you to have a knowledge base of the profession in a different way. And you can really be a resource at work and kind of help with like the leadership structure. And another thing that that I took from what Ashton was talking about was, it allows you to strengthen your network. I also got my first job from, being at AAPA conference. I think it's an amazing way to just network, meet PAs in different cities if you're interested in going somewhere else. And yeah, developing lifelong friends. Like someone I served on the board with last year, I'm going to her wedding next month in Jamaica. So there's a plethora of opportunities that you can get out of being on the student board. Yeah, it's been very, very rewarding. All right, moving on. So our next question is for Alec, our former chief delegate. How have you been able to translate your work as a student with the APA to your role currently as an orthopedic trauma surgery PA?
Yeah, it's something that I think there's gonna be a lot of people on this call who can maybe relate to. And it's my first time walking into HOD. That sense of, oh my gosh, I'm in over my head. Kind of what you were saying a little bit, Patrice. It felt very overwhelming. You walk into a room with, over 300 plus medical professionals of just diverse backgrounds and intense expertise, a knowledge base that maybe, you feel like you don't quite match up to. And no matter the amount of time and energy that I put into, looking over testimony to even down to the minute wording differences, the first time that I got up to that microphone, I was shaking, nervous, and reading right off of my little iPad. But it's great when you turn around and you realize that there was 30 other student delegates who are with you the entire time. And you had an entire board who was with you the entire year. And your entire delegation is voting as one unit, and you are all letting each other know exactly how you're feeling and being able to kind of almost dissect a lot of these knowledge gaps together and fill things in for each other. And so I kind of say all this to say that feeling of imposter syndrome on your first day at work, when you walk into a patient room and you feel like I am just a little PA student still. Or I have done 2 years of work and I feel like I still know nothing. It was a very similar feeling for me. And I think that being on the student board really gave me a lot of encouragement and confidence to say, no, my voice holds a ton of weight. When I was up at the microphone and I was speaking off my iPad, there was 300 people who were listening, engaged, and agreeing with me. And I think that has a really unique feeling and a really unique build on who you are in your profession. Because when you walk into that patient room, the patient has full confidence in you. And you no matter if you're 2 days into your career or 30 years in, your voice still holds extreme weight. And the decisions that you make are on behalf of your profession, and they're on behalf of yourself, your colleagues, your team, etc. And so I think being on the student board really taught me that. And it gave me the confidence to say, my voice matters and my opinion matters. And, I've put in the time, the effort, the work to be here. So being on the team of the student board, I think it really affects the way that you look at the rest of your career and look at the PA profession as a whole.
That was beautifully said, Alec. All right, well, going into our final question for all the panelists to answer, what are some qualities student candidates should demonstrate on their platform statement, video, and application? Anyone can go first.
I'll go one word and I'll just say enthusiasm. Be excited about it. Whatever you're applying for, have an idea, run with it and be excited about it.
Yeah, I think just being who you are, being yourself. We're all people, right? So when people are looking to vote, they want to know that you represent them and you're like them, and you know, have the energy to and passion to be there. And I think ultimately, people will vote for the people that they feel is going to enthusiastically, like Alex said, and passionately represent them and speak on behalf of the students.
The one thing that came to mind was perfection. It does not have to be perfect. It does not have to be perfect. If you're type A like me, don't worry about it. However it comes out, it's going to be great. It's going to be authentic. Um, yeah, it's going to be authentic. So just be authentically you, to echo what Ashton just said. And yeah, think about how answer the questions in the best way that you know how, and not think about like it's not an essay for school. Like you're not trying to like what do they want me to say? No, just answer it as best you can and you will shine through.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us. Before we take questions from all of you from the Q&A box, I wanted to share some upcoming student leadership opportunities. We will share links and deadlines for these opportunities in an email tomorrow. So the PA Foundation Student Trustee application is currently open and due February 24th, so that's coming up if you want to apply. And then the House of Delegates Reference Committee member and Secretary positions, the application deadline is February 14th. And then in April, the applications for the AAPA commissions will be available. Many of these commissions are seeking at least one student or early career member. And in the spring, applications for House of Delegates student delegation will be available. And applications for the student board committees will be available in late summer, early fall. So now we can answer some questions from the Q&A box if you have any. Tatum asked, how does it feel transitioning from a student to a certified PA as a board member?
So, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ashton.
No, I was going to say I don't know if the question is about becoming a certified PA while you're on the student board, because I know that happens for some. It didn't happen to me, so I was going to say I'm probably not the best one to answer that question.
Yeah, for myself, I was a student through and through. So I don't necessarily have personal experience with that. But what I can speak to is, I guess, some of the experiences of at least going through being in the student delegation from my first year to really just the end of my second year, as the conference was in May and I was graduating just in a month or two. And I think that having that transition, you learn a lot about when you're in didactic year, you understand, PA school from just the classroom side of things, from the medicine side of things. And then I think as I started to transition into my clinical year, I was starting to ask my preceptors about a lot of the challenges that were mentioned and brought up, a lot of the resolutions that were kind of being brought up, and what those topics were really about and how it affected them in their clinical practice. And now that, I'm a clinically practicing PA, I understand that a lot of the effects that those specific issues have on me as a PA in Connecticut. So I think that even if you're in your clinical year, you start to see at the grassroots what a lot of these national topics that are being discussed are and what effects that they have on clinical practice.
Yeah, so I guess I'll answer this. So I finished out my second year, or I finished out my leadership year transitioning to PAC. And I think the literal visual of student weight was removed from my body. There wasn't any weight on my shoulders about when am I taking this test or how am I, it was just like, oh, thank goodness I'm done. But I think to echo what Alex said, yeah, coming into conference and now like, okay, what do I need to know? What do I already know and what am I missing and what's going to help me as I'm entering into this role, not just for my patients, but also to be able to advocate now as a professional at the state level and the national level. Like, what is it I'm missing that I wasn't as focused on with my student lens, but now as my professional lens, like entering into it. So yeah. Yeah, so it wasn't oh, let me go back. Yeah, so I would say that's how it felt. But it wasn't a big like jarring. It was just like, okay, what do I need to carry now? As I'm going into this PAC space.
I know we're past this question, but I'm just going to briefly touch on it because I feel like I've had a little bit more of an intimate experience with that, going from a student and being a PA currently and being on the board currently. It's tough. Not gonna lie, it can be tough. But I think the biggest thing is time management and speaking up if you feel like you're drowning or if you need extra help. There are so many times where I'm, coming out of work super late and I have to just text Yasmin and ask her to cover for me for like the first 20 minutes of our meeting. Or, I'll text my other directors and just like do quick check-ins with them if I feel like I've been super busy for like the last 2 weeks. So it's really a balancing act. And yeah, you just have to try your best to keep your head above water, but it's really a team effort. And yeah, I'm just very, very grateful for like all of my board members that just help pour into me when I need it. So we can move on to the next question. Um, Laura Hassan is asking, how did you decide on what position to run for? What about the position you had speaks to you? Anybody can answer this.
I can answer this one, even though I'm not really on the panel. So for me, I had a lot of trouble picking which position to run for. I thought I wanted to run for communications director, but I actually wrote my whole speech in video and I was showing my sister, and my sister was like, "It sounds like you really want to run for president." And then that was kind of the reason I said, like, go big or go home. So that's kind of how I ended up running for president-elect. So
Yeah, I think that's first of all, Yasmin, that's amazing. I think that's such a unique story, and I'm sure a lot of people can feel that way too. Because Patrice, like you were saying earlier, it can feel daunting to apply for one of these positions and feel like maybe you're not qualified. Even for myself, I ended up applying for the chief delegate role after a year of being a student delegate, and I still didn't know if I was truly the right person for the position. But at the end of the day, I knew what I loved to do was I loved to go through policy like a little nerd bird, and I loved to dissect it. I loved being in the House, and that's where I wanted to be again next year. And so that position really spoke to me, and it was a unique opportunity that I felt like the constituency behind me I could represent well. So that's kind of what drew me to it. And I think that everyone, again, is going to have their own interests and their own kind of thoughts of why they want to do something, their own motivations. But one of the concepts that I had heard that involves governance that I think is really important when you're considering running for a role is how do you look at the role? Do you feel like you are going to represent the people who are voting you in? So are you going to try and represent the constituency, or are you going to be voted in because of the platform that you're running on, and you hope that the constituency that's voting you in trusts you in using that platform? And I think that your answer to that question can sometimes dictate exactly where you want to be, because it really makes you think about what is it exactly? What is the influence that I want to have on the board? What are some of the things that I want to run on? Who is the constituency that I'm representing, and where does that best fit on the board?
Anyone else want to touch on this, or should we move on to the next question? Okay, we can move on. All right, let's go into the other chat. Parker asked, what challenges have previous regional directors faced, and how did they navigate them successfully?
I was a regional director, and I think, and even to this day, being on the board today, the most frustrating thing for me then and the most frustrating thing for me now is a lack of participation in the profession. And so I think when you're trying to schedule a meeting and you're going to have a meeting with your regional leaders, you know, technically a representative from every program in your region, and no one shows up, or 5 or 6 people show up, and you've emailed, you know, I think those are the times where you get really frustrated, but it creates a really awesome opportunity for you to bring creativity to the table. How do we get more people involved? How do we create accountability for the person that's supposed to be representing each program? They should be on these calls. Their program put them in a position where they're supposed to be, you know, their liaison between AAPA and their program. You know, so where is that accountability, and what can we do to increase that? And I think it gives you a lot of space to be creative and to figure out, you know, what are we going to do? And I think when I was on the board, and I don't know how the student board works with these calls now, but when I was on the board, that we had that session, we said, what do we do to get more engagement? And what we ended up doing was we started combining regions, and so we would have a call with 2 regions, and it was really cool because you had more engagement, there were more people, you got to work with your colleague. So it really provides a space for creativity and the opportunity for you to be a leader and say, like, what are we going to do to navigate this?
So that's awesome because I was thinking the same thing. So as the Mid-Atlantic Regional Director, that was really hard. And even just like getting a hold of people, like even just to send an email was like the biggest obstacle. So from the state level, like the Pennsylvania Society of PAs, the student directors at large, I'm going to take like a thing that the ones after me did, was they held like these informational meetings with individual programs throughout the state. And Pennsylvania has like the most PA programs in the country. I forget what the number is up to now, but they like took it and ran with it. Like, how can we like meet with each individual program and figure out who's the point person and then go from there. And I said, okay, well, how can we leverage that to, you know, a whole region? What does that look like? Is it too like exhaustive to do that? But I mean, that's me. I have many ideas, but I thought they did it really well because that was a struggle for me too. In like getting participation from the different SARs in my region and like across the country too with the other regional directors. But it is possible if it can happen at the state level, which is why I kind of worked my way up in positions the way I did. Because I'm like, okay, if it works here, then how can we scale it up to where to like a larger section too? So it's possible, even if we have to go back and talk to prior regional directors or prior folks that have held the role. There's tons of ideas to explore. It can be navigated. We can figure it out.
Okay. I was just responding to this other question that was in the chat. Mahir was asking about how to stay involved in advocacy when you become a new grad. What's the best way to stay plugged in? I just threw just like things off the top of my head. Obviously, there's a new grad discount that you can take advantage of with AAPA. Definitely become a part of your state chapter wherever you are ending up to practice. Like I got immediately involved with Maryland, and go to their advocacy day, and they offer like a ton of CME. Um, and it's important to just be abreast on, the policies that are going on in your state and what you guys are working towards. And then we also have a network called GAIN, which is more of our advocacy side and staying involved with that. If anyone has anything to add, feel free.
I think keeping your membership up is so important. And also it creates and supports the advocacy that we have going on. But there are so many AAPA committees and commissions and things that you should absolutely apply for and join. And maybe like national involvement isn't what you want, or you're overwhelmed by that thought. I think starting at the state level is so brilliant too. And sometimes, your state needs you so bad. You have no clue how much your state needs you until you get at that board table and you're like, oh my gosh, like we need more members. We need more people advocating for the profession. We need their membership dues so we can pay the lobbyists to fight our battles with us. And so I think just plugging yourself in and finding the place where you feel the most passion, where you're like, this is where I feel like I'm being led to, and just go and be there. And you're not going to get turned away from by your state. You're not going to get turned away. Even getting involved, with your program when you graduate and saying, hey, I would love to lecture on something someday. And all of those little ways, you're advocating for your profession in different ways, and you're giving back to your profession. So just find what you enjoy, go for it. If you have a mentor that's done it before you, or reaching out to your state president to get some more information, I think all of those are great ways to get involved and stay involved.
And I'll add that if you find there's something like for me, when it came to students at conference, like I had so many questions, and I probably asked Caitlin a bajillion or talked about it whenever we had like a student academy something, like why is this happening? Why isn't this happening? Like, why can't we do this? Blah, blah, blah. And now there's a task force. So if you find something that you're passionate about and it doesn't exist, you can work on that as a new grad PAC, and it could be a task force or be a committee. Like there's so many different ways that you can get involved, um, that can make it not seem like another task to do, especially once you get into that learning curve of being a new PA, but can actually, give a little relief in your day to day by doing something that you're passionate about.
So I can ask some questions from the Q&A. Have there been times that you had conflicts? Oh, this is a question by Aaron McShane, by the way. Have there been times that you've had conflicts with your job, PA school schedule, and the requirements meetings for your student academy role? And what are the best ways to navigate those schedule adjustments if you ran into those?
Yes, absolutely. During PA school, some of those schedule conflicts are just part of the game. They're gonna happen. They're inevitable. And I think that the best way to truly navigate them is just being transparent and honest with whoever it is. There's going to be times where, you have to miss a meeting for whatever reason, but as long as you did the pre-meeting work, you prepared for whatever working documents that are going on the board or your delegation or whatever it may be, and you catch up with the minutes afterwards, and you reach out to some people on the board if you had any questions, right there, you are still doing your role, even though, you weren't able to make them 30 minute to an hour meeting for whatever reason. You're fulfilling your obligations as a member on the board, and you're putting in the effort, and that in no way is ever going to penalize you. Of course, there's going to be times too where maybe instead of being able to go to some social retreat with everyone at your school, you have to go to conference, or instead of being able to go ahead and study for that hour after class, you're on a meeting with everyone on your board, and you have to wake up an hour earlier the next morning to study. There's going to be those times as well. And really being able to navigate your schedule, put your priorities first. If you're able to get a lot of your pre-meeting work done on the weekend. That's always what I tried to do. Wake up an hour earlier on the weekend, get all that stuff done with, so the rest of the day I could have to study or, kind of do whatever I needed to decompress a little bit. But you find what works. And when, again, like I said, when you love something, you find the time for it. And there's always going to be people there to back you up and to give you some lenience on the way as well.
Yeah, I had so much support. I was on my emergency medicine rotation when LAS was scheduled, and I remember finding out what rotation I was going to and my preceptor. And before my rotation even started, I sent an email and I was like, hey, I'm, scheduled to be in DC from, March this through that. And is there any way that we can like schedule my shifts around that? If you have any questions, like I'd love to talk to you about it. And it actually ended up being a really cool thing. My preceptor was actually like way more supportive than I thought she would be. And she was like, this is incredible. Like how you tell me like what days you can't be there. I didn't even know there was a student board. And, I haven't even been connected with AAPA in years since I've graduated. And so it actually turned into like a really cool, like push for AAPA and, professional advocacy just as a student, brand new to the board. But they were more than supportive of me in that role, which was very helpful. And I think exactly what Alex said, the quicker you can communicate with people when conflicts arise, I think everyone's really willing to kind of help you figure out the best solution for the event.
I actually had a really similar experience to Ashton, and my preceptor asked me all of the bills we fought for on Capitol Hill, and I had to be that liaison to kind of teach my preceptor too, which is cool. And then looks like the last question is for Alec. Did you still work on policies as chief delegate, or was it focused more on supporting student delegates in managing the overall process?
Yeah, that's a great question. As chief delegate, one of my goals was to make sure that early in the year, everyone just had a baseline understanding. As a new delegate coming into the HOD for the first time, what is a delegate? What are constituencies? What are bylaws? And so we really broke it down kind of at that base level, and we continue to build on it throughout the year. And that was one of my goals early on in the year. And then as we started to get a little bit deeper, I started to work on resolution myself and pulled a lot of the delegates who were on the delegation at the time along with me. And there was probably, oh goodness, probably 6 or 7 other delegates who I just wanted to support and their goals and their motivations for writing their own resolutions. And I think we got 5 or 6 of those passed, which was really incredible. So as chief delegate, you are the point person, you're the liaison from the board to the delegation, but you're also, again, that point person for the delegation, and you're there to help everyone else achieve the same goal, which is representing for their student constituency. So in the HOD space, I like to think of it as, you're just another delegate who just had a year of experience. But then, of course, when you're on the board, you wear that dual hat of being a liaison as well.
Looks like that was the last question. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. If anyone has any burning questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
Tyler,
really...
the meeting is gonna be recorded, or it is recorded, and it will be posted hopefully in the next week. Well, without further ado, I want to thank you all so much for your time. To our panelists, Ashton, Patrice, and Alec, thank you guys for taking some time out of your busy schedule, talk about your experiences on the student board and being a PA and why it's so important to run for the board. Thank you to all the PA students who attended tonight, took some time out from your busy schedule as well, and just showing interest. We are really looking forward to seeing your application. Feel free to reach out to me and Yasmin. We are very accessible. Our emails are on the website, and happy to talk and give some guidance as well. But I hope everyone has a great evening and thank you guys for attending. Bye.